You think improving your flexibility takes hours of stretching every day? You're wrong. Well, you're wrong on two fronts, actually. It does not take hours of stretching, and you've got the wrong goal, though. Let me explain. You don't actually want to be flexible. You want better mobility. You don't want to be just flexible. You want greater mobility. Flexibility is the ability of a muscle or group of muscles to lengthen passively through a range of motion, like me bending over and touching my toes. Mobility is the ability of a joint to move actively through a full range of motion. And that would be me reaching down to touch my toes, but contracting my quadriceps while I do it. So my hamstrings relax more and pulling my body toward my toes. Mobility involves the range of motion of the joints and the strength to control that range. That is what you really want. You want it for right now, so you can do all the amazing athletic things that you love to do. And you want it for the future so that when you are 90, you can still pick up your great-great-grandchild, or you can, like I want to do, kite surf when you're an old man and shock everybody on the beach. You want to be able to do the things that you love to do into your older ages. So mobility includes flexibility. Flexibility is a component of mobility, but also encompasses the strength, the coordination, and the control to move through that range of motion. Sounds good, doesn't it? Here's a basic example. Being able to squat deeply without pain or restriction, where not just the hip joint, but also the knees and the ankles move freely. So you want mobility. Mobility is going to enable you to exercise, and that includes cardio, weight training, and all the fun things you like to do. For me, like I said, it's kite surfing. But guess what? Exercise is moving. So if you move well, you can actually exercise better and get more out of every single session you spend in the gym. Imagine this. You get a 50% improvement in each and every training session. It will be better. So every single training session is better. And what does that look like in a year? I mean, what does it look like in 2 years? Oh, I mean, it's one of the reasons I don't really struggle to achieve exceptional body composition as an old man, as my daughter would say. So just imagine that 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road, where your mobility is getting better and better and better, and every single training session over that long period of time is leveraged in a bigger way. So you spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour in a gym, that time is better used because you're more mobile. Just to hammer this home a little bit more, let's talk about how this affects the rest of your health. It affects your mental well-being, because if you can move really well and exercise regularly in the absence of pain, you are going to be happier and you're going to have a more full life, and everything is going to be better and easier for you. Your body composition, as described, is way easier to accomplish. Your cardiovascular health. So because you can do things like medium intensity, steady state cardio, or high intensity interval training, or just a brisk walk, you can do it all better if your joint health or your mobility is improved. Your hormones actually improve. For example, you become more insulin sensitive as a result of being able to exercise more frequently and with no pain. Potentially, you can even improve your sex hormones. Yeah, like if your mobility is better because of the work that you can do with your body in the form of exercise, you can even improve your sex hormones like testosterone. Because of the absence of joint pain and because of the presence of a lot of exercise, you are going to be able to sleep more deeply. You're going to be able to recover more thoroughly, and you're going to be able to manage stress much more easily, because the only stress you're going to be able to, or you're going to need to focus on, is your psychological, emotional stress, not the physical stress that's related to pain. And because of your improved mobility and the ability, therefore, to exercise whenever you want, which, a lot of people don't have because of the pain that they're in, your gut health will improve. And by that, I mean specifically your alpha diversity will improve, which happens with exercise, and your intestinal motility will improve, which means bye-bye to constipation. And because of this nice rosy outlook and how you're feeling in general and the ability to exercise and sleep better, your mental well-being continues to improve over time. Studies show that nutrition decisions also improve, and that expands your entire wheel of health along with it. Let me talk to you right now like I'm your Dutch uncle. If you don't improve your mobility, what happens to your prospects for health and longevity? Sadly, it's ugly. You lose your independence. Basic things like walking, going up and down stairs. You'll need help for that. You're more likely to fall and break something because you can lose balance, because you tend to do that if you end up forced into a sedentary lifestyle because of mobility issues. The absence of exercise in total leads to heart disease, all the various forms. So it's kind of scary. When you can't move, it affects your mental well-being. depression, anxiety, less social interaction because of the lack of independence. I mean, you lose the ability to do the things that you love. The experience of fun and joy start to diminish. Other forms of chronic disease states start to set in, like type 2 diabetes, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. And what I just described to you is the aging process. It sets in and it does so aggressively. Technology will keep you propped up, the drugs that we have, the surgeries that are available to you. But the quality of life, the experience of life is just not what you want as you get older. So if you want to avoid the pain associated with getting old, work on your mobility now. If you do take action, you should be improving your mobility just a little bit every year, while others are seeing a little bit of a decline every single year. And by the time you're 100, you'll be moving like a cat. Can you imagine becoming stronger and stronger in your furthest edges of range of motion while others around you they're just getting older? I mean, you're gonna have to find younger friends. So what if I told you that there's a way to do this without doing things like daily yoga for an hour every day, or doing stretches for hours every day, or without spending thousands of dollars a year with physical therapists and chiropractors? Right? Does it sound too good to be true? It kind of does to me, but it's really not. So just take this pill. I'm just kidding. There's no pill. I'm not selling mobility supplements. Let's take a pause for a second, though. If you're ready to take the next step in your health journey, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and join thousands of others who have already begun to tackle their health challenges, including mobility issues, just like you. So together we can help you build the knowledge and confidence to make smart and healthy decisions to achieve whatever your goals are, including enhanced mobility by the time you're 100 years old. Okay, so mobility, it does take work. I'm not saying that's easy, but I'm a really good example of someone who spent decades sitting at a desk in airplanes or driving, causing a range of hip mobilities I never really recognized until one day I wanted to do a full squat. And I couldn't. I'd squat a little bit ways down and then I'd just kind of bend way over. It was so bad. I don't even have proof. I wasn't recording a lot of things back then. That was about 7 years ago. I never even really knew I had a problem to solve until one day I went to our team at Stark and I admitted that every time I did a squat or a deadlift, my erectors, which are the muscles on each side of your spine, starting at your lumbar and go up and out on your back, they were so fatigued I had to take a break. I had to hold myself up on a bench with my arms because sitting down just made them ache so badly. I had to take a break from the training session. So the thing that these exercises all had in common is that they were all intended to, in part, train your glutes. So a squat, in part, is a glute exercise. A deadlift is primarily intended to exercise your glutes and your hamstrings. But what was happening instead was my low back was doing all of the work. And so because I had an injury in my 20s for my low back, as soon as I started feeling any sensation that I was going to injure my lumbar spine, I would kind of freak out a little bit and have to stop. But the question was, well, why are those erectors working so hard? They're not really intended to do that job. They're merely intended to help my upper body remain balanced on top of my hips, not to lift heavy things with. So those old injuries plagued me up until about 5 years ago. And at that point, I went to work with my team of improving not my flexibility, but my mobility, specifically my hip mobility. So you can see some of the elements of my hip mobility problems in the simple pigeon stretch. And then I started to work on attempting to do the middle splits after I started making improvements in my squats, because I wanted to continue to take it to the next level. I didn't want to just be able to do a squat. I figured, well, what's the most dramatic, ridiculously challenging goal you can have for hip mobility and hip health and glute development? It's the middle split, like Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I'm still not there 5 years later, but have made a lot of progress. And most of that progress has been, sure, with our mobility team, and our mobility team is made up of chiropractors. However, much of what actually moved the needle was the work that I did and continue to do at home during meetings, whenever I have a few 5 minutes here and there throughout the course of the day, and definitely right before a workout. So back to the original point, I'm convinced that if I did this when I was young, and this kind of stuff didn't exist back then, I would never have injured a disc in my low back, which today, 30 years later, is desiccated, which means when you do an MRI on it, it shows up as kind of a dark spot. So the common misperception is this: I need to do yoga and I need to do it a lot. I need to do it to become more flexible. And that's just not true. And although I love yoga, I love it for mental well-being, I love it for stress management, I love it for community, which is really, really important in a health journey. If you go to a studio, that is, and you're actually part of a community. But it doesn't really improve mobility to the degree that I needed it, to the degree that I want. However, circular articular rotations are exceptional for exactly what you need. 5 minutes, twice a day for the rest of your life, if you do it well. So like most health-related endeavors, you need to do this with a high degree of frequency. When I say like other health endeavors, I'm talking about nutrition and good quality sleep and regular exercise. The regularity with which you approach it is the critical part of it. So when I say 5 minutes a day, twice a day, every day for the rest of your life, there has to be some discipline around that. But the time commitment isn't really that big. One more thing has to be present. The intensity by which you approach it has to be exceptional. That means during that 5-minute period, the effort is high. You push yourself hard. So I want you to remember this concept. Joints love circles. Joints love circles. They love circles. Okay, remember that. Every single one of your joints, they love circles. Circular articular rotations are circles done with a tremendous amount of intention. So we're going to call them, from this point forward, CARs. So I don't have to say circular articular rotations over and over again. CARs, C-A-R-S. So I'm going to give you the big ones, but others can be applied to absolutely any joint, which means I'm going to show you neck CARs, but you can also do wrist CARs and ankle CARs and knee CARs. You get the idea? They can be applied to any joint, and over time, you will see improvement with the assumption that you're actually doing the work. If you just think that you're going to do CARs and you don't actually do it 5 minutes a day, twice a day, you're not going to get the results. And if you do it 5 minutes a day and you're just really not trying, this is a scapular CAR, I'm just kind of going like this. Sorry, it's not going to work. You have to really be intentional. You have to try hard. We're going to start right at the top of my head, and we're going to move all the way down my body, hitting the major joints. And if you just do those, you're going to see massive improvement everywhere else. And like I said, you can extend them to whatever joint is bothering you. Just start doing circles on a regular basis. But from here on out, it's on your shoulders. So do them with me. These are neck CARs. And this next one is called scapular CARs. And then we've got the full shoulder CAR. And then my least favorite, but probably the one that I need the most, thoracic CARs. And the one I've been working on very hard for the last 5 years, hip CARs. So when you're doing these, you'll do one per joint, and you go back and do a second round per joint in each direction, 2 reps per joint, going both ways. Very, very important. You kind of see the intensity. I'm kind of struggling. You can see me shaking a bit as I'm going through these movements. For this to work, you really need to push yourself. So you've got to push yourself up against the edges of your range of motion, right up until the edge, like as far as you possibly can go. For example, look at my neck CARs. I'm turning my head as far as I can go to the right, and then I'm rolling it around my neck to the furthest edges as far as I possibly can go. And you may not be able to move much at first, but that's okay. Just focus on going as far as you possibly can, and that will expand very slowly over time. I know this seems very simple, and it is, but think about your joints like they're, as you get older, rusty hinges. And as you get older, your hinges just don't move as well. And over time, the movement gets smaller and smaller. And this is allowing for the opposite to happen. So as you push yourself to your furthest edges of range of motion, your body will slowly get more and more comfortable with that new level of mobility. You'll be able to move with greater range of motion. At some point, 2 or 3 or even 4 years down the road, you're gonna be like, oh, dang, Todd was right. But it's gonna take a leap of faith now to see if I am in fact right. And maybe you don't need to trust my words, just look at me and look at how I move. It's not right. It's not normal at my age to move the way I do with the kind of strength that I have. It's fantastic. I want to share it with you, but you need to own this. This is work, but it's not a lot of work. It's just a little bit of work. Do it once in the morning, once in the evening, and then try to work up to 2 times a day, and even better, 3 times a day, or even 5 times a day, just a little bit, 5 times a day. Do it during meetings, while you're on Zoom calls, when you're in the airport, in your hotel room. You can do all of this anywhere. It doesn't take any space at all. And remember, just start at the top of your head and move to every single joint all the way down your body. Push to the edges of range of motion, move very, very slowly while you're doing this, and you'll get better at it. So now that you're on the right track, I wanted to let you know that I have some additional content for you that you can use to add this newfound skill to. So I created a video that I call the Wheel of Health, and it's about a diagram that essentially is an introspective tool on how you're doing in all aspects of your health. The video describes how to use it, and then there's a PDF that goes along with it that enables you to measure, just like I do, how you're doing in orthopedic health, like we're reviewing in this video, but also your mental well-being, your body composition, your hormones, your cardiovascular health, all the labs, all the wearable devices that help inform cardiovascular health as well, sleep, recovery, and stress, how to look at the various metrics. It's a very, very practical, helpful tool. So go ahead and click the link and you'll have access to it.